Welcome to today's symposium, which is entitled Synthetic Societies, Human Vulnerability and Systemic Fragility in a Context of Rising Algorithmic Power. This event is organized jointly by the Extra Info Hub, an initiative of the World Academy of Arts and Science, and CIRET, the International Center of Transdisciplinary Studies in Paris. Now, let me just say a few words about our theme. The opportunities associated with AI are highly significant and broadly predictable. Investors, as we know, have inundated the sector with an inflow of capital unprecedented in economic history, with the top few tech firms now scheduled to spend about $1 trillion in the next year alone on AI infrastructure. All this enthusiasm is based on the prediction that AI will revolutionize research, development, and innovation, production speed and efficiency, marketing and distribution, and generally boost corporate profitability and shareholder returns. The investment is so great because so are the hopes for extracting huge profits from the real economy, as well as for a position of supreme power for the few individuals who control the tech sector. We're extending their reach far and wide, even into domains previously associated with nation states, such as the military or public administration. You may have heard some of the news about Palantir and DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, that was briefly tasked with overseeing American public administrations. Anyway, as always, there is hope for some trickle down of the benefits to the rest of society, given that innovations in medicine, for example, do stand to benefit many people. But talking about risk, apart from investment risk, most of the risks are on the side of the general public. Efforts to protect the public are much less enthusiastic. There's only a very modest inflow of resources to meet the risk management challenges that AI poses, while legal guardrails and policies for the safe development and use of AI are being developed by the UN, the EU, and many nation states. Other governments actively seek to minimize regulation and maximize innovation in the sector so as to win the race for artificial superintelligence, and to gain, with the aim of gaining economic and military hegemony. The sector itself is lobbying fiercely against regulation, notwithstanding a few critical voices, such as the founders of MIRI, for example. Now, why are we interested in this? Extra was created as an initiative of the World Academy to provide a one-step source or info hub on existential risk, so as to break down silos between disciplines, and it is organizing events such as this to promote a lively exchange of ideas and a sense of community among research and civil society leaders concerned with these risks. And among the main categories of X risks identified in our directory, there is none more significant than AI. We concur with a recent UNDP report proclaiming that we are indeed at the dawn of the age of AI and that vitally important choices need to be made while we still can. This concern was reflected in our October 25 Extra newsletter, which was a special issue reviewing key reports, papers and books and news headlines on AI. Now, in July 2026, we are revisiting the theme because it is such a fast-moving area of concern. In this symposium, we consider what advice we may give regarding the choices that can be made today to steer the future towards safer and more benign applications of AI. In particular, we reflect on the fact that algorithmic systems now increasingly mediate social, political, economic, and cultural life. The fact that contemporary societies are becoming synthetic environments, that is, infrastructures of automated decision-making, predictive analysis, AI, media, platform governments, and agentic AI that all shape human behavior. while remaining largely opaque to those they govern, sometimes even to AI's own designers. Our panel of experts today examines the growing tension between technological capability and human vulnerability in a context where algorithmic power is rapidly consolidating across institutions, markets, and everyday life. The discussion will explore how synthetic societies produce new forms of systemic fragility, including the erosion of public trust, amplification of misinformation, concentration of economic and epistemic power, and the weakening of democratic accountability. Particular attention will be given to disparities between human cognition and machine-scale learning systems, as well as the psychological, social, and political vulnerabilities that emerge when automated infrastructures become embedded within critical domains such as healthcare, security, labor, education, governance, and media. Now, first up, it is my honor to introduce Gary Jacobs, President and CAO of the World Academy, and Florent Pasquier, the head of CIRET, and to invite them to say a few words about their respective organizations and why AI is a shared concern for both. So, Gary, please, first, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Thomas, and the whole team at Extra for hosting this very timely webinar on a very important subject. And I hope in my brief comments to not only to show why WAS thinks this really ranks very high in terms of the topics that we should be focusing on in the Academy and the world. I'd also like to welcome our co-organizers, CIRET and Florence, the president, and his team. I think this is the first really formal collaboration that I know of, but we look forward to much more of it. And in getting more familiar with CIRET, I was very happy to see something we have very much in common, and that is the great emphasis on transdisciplinary perspectives, which we believe are essential for comprehending and effectively addressing the complex realities of the real world. And it's hard to imagine anything more complex and more transdisciplinary than this. Is not just a discussion about technology. This is a discussion, a topic about all of humanity and how that technology affects it. Just to stress why WAS feels this is so important, last fall, we had 3 different research teams submitting proposals rather, on this very issue that's going to be under discussion today, on the polarizing effect of AI that can have on society, on thinking, on culture, and so forth. And I'm looking forward very much to hearing what our speakers have to say. In this February, we participated in the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. It was an international conference, one of a series, in which this was in fact the very same topic that we were presenting in the limited time available. And it was encouraging to hear back feedback, not only from participants, but of the organizers of the Impact Summit, that they rated this event as one of the most significant in the whole AI program, which was very extensive. So I think you've come to a really critical issue, which merits much greater attention. Today's event is very timely for us. There was a similar topic touching on similar last month on colonizing the mind, but this is much too deep and broad a topic to be exhausted by any limited discussion. Not only that, but for those of you who are not familiar with the Academy, we look at transnational, global, transdisciplinary issues, and one that's before us now is trying to understand the magnitude of the turbulence that's spreading around the world and impacting virtually every sector of life: political, social, cultural, economic for sure, and technological. And in doing so, we feel the issue that you have on the table today for our discussion is not just a manifestation or not just one of the isolated parts of it, but it could well be one of the deeper underlying causes, or not the only one for sure, but of the wider turbulence, which we don't directly associate with the technology, but we associate the changing attitudes in society, the polarizations of attitude in society, and viewpoints and perspectives. So for that reason, I take particularly great interest in this, and we have another conference on the same theme of global turbulence coming up in September. And so we look to learn from this webinar things that we can take and explore in September, where we're looking not only at the diagnosis of the problem, but possible solutions. And certainly this ranks very high in terms of the challenges we face. And I'll just wind up my remarks by, for those who are not very familiar with the work of the Academy, just to go back to our origins, way back, officially instituted in 1960, but it really traces its origins back to 1945 and the development of the atomic bomb. And the dilemma that scientists and technologists found themselves when they saw that in an effort they thought to save the world, they were actually creating an imminent danger and threat, which we still have not yet been able to put back in the box once it's been opened. And so naturally, this is something of greatest concern to us. The dawn of the AI age is of unimaginable potential opportunity. It's not that we see things in only a negative way, but it also equally poses some of the greatest challenges we have to face. And so I thank you, both organizations, both Extra and CIRET, for coming together on this and helping us carry forward this dialogue. And I look forward to learning from you and through many future opportunities to work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. I think it's my turn to say a few words. So thank you also, Thomas, for your warm welcome. And first of all, I would like also to thank you, the organizers of this afternoon together. It all depends where you are connecting from. And I'm also very happy of this encounter between our organizations, because what we have in common, among many things, it's something very rare, I think so, which is to point out as much attention to sciences and to arts, because those both fields, arts and sciences, are talking about us, about real and reality. And very probably we can't approach issues from modernity with just one way, which could be science or which could be arts, but both have to be combined in order to go deeper, closer, in order to find the best solutions we can offer with the issues of our new century. So also I would like to present and respect and thankful all the speakers whom will be with us along this meeting. And if you allow me, Christina, maybe you could share my presentation in order to give it something more visual. And of course, I thank also a lot Christina for all the relations she was able to make between our organizations. And like you, Thomas and Gary, I hope today is just the first step for future exchanges. So I will present shortly what is CIRET in order to know a little bit better. to organize some common actions in the future. Next slide, please, Chris. And after this presentation, I can't give a word now to Edgar Morin, who unfortunately left us very soon, because he was co-founder about 40 years ago with Basarab Nicolescu. Basarab was a theoretic physician in CNRS in France, and all of us, we know, of course, Edgar Morin, and we are trying to continue to pursue the expansion, enhancement of their visions. And after I will present the 3 axioms of TD, I will say TD for transdisciplinary, as there have been summarized in a scheme called Transreality, made by Basarab Nicolescu. And to finish this short presentation, I will introduce the different thematics of the speakers. So thanks again for all of you to be here, and especially Christina Pope-Take. Next slide, please, Christina. So what is CIRET nowadays? It's a huge association worldwide. Oh, it's what, I'm very sorry, I use a smartphone and it's writing very small for my old eyes. So I can't, on your own eyes, to complete what I could forget to say. So we had the 2 Nobel Prizes at the foundation, and the third one joined us a little bit later. And it's a place for exchanges and research about TD. This is what we have in common. We try to find what is between other and further disciplines, because we can't understand a complex world with usual small points of view due to this globality. So we developed a method, Basarab developed a method to understand how could TD use help us in our complex world. And we are conducting many activities. We are publishing books, as both in France with L'Harmattan and with our partner at Juris in Romania. We have journals called Transdisciplinary Encounters, and the last issue, which is available free online, was dealing the topic of AA. It was conducted by Mirella Tamura, present with us today. And next issue, probably in September, please come back again, come before. We'll deal with spirituality, because we think that spirituality is a form of consciousness that we have maybe to give it a new approach, separate from religion, in order to be more compatible with the faith of everyone. So here are the 3 axioms of transdisciplinarity. The first one is epistemological, we call it complexity. Second one is the logical axiom, which deals with logic and especially the included third. And the last one is ontological, which deals with the levers of reality. And next slide, we present the combination of the 3 of them. And I would like to thank Edouard Lozzeanu to help me to actualize this schema. So we start with the notion of level of reality. We will separate our understanding, as Descartes proposed us, to distinguish the world of the objects, the natural world, and later the world of the subjects. But let's start with the physical world, from quantum physics to cosmic. At each level of reality, for example, in environment, objects are different, A and non-A. But if we understand that it's not an opposition, but something which is complementary in overviews at another level of reality, the economic level, they are combined to organize the real. But also, we can continue, please, Chris, to advance in this scheme. At the economic level, also, we might distinguish many kinds of forms for producing. For example, communism or socialism and liberalism. They could seem appear like opposed, but in fact, at another level of reality, we join it grace to the third in command. We are all living in the planetary, which is itself involved in the cosmic level. For individual subjects, it's the same. No one of us are identical. Gary is not Thomas, which is not me, and so on. But we share a common social and historical time this day. And this day also, we are all online, but in other parts of the world, other people are conducting meetings like us, and we could see different, but in fact, with the included third, we are all actors of this contemporary historical time. And at another level of reality, we share a common over reality, which will appear very soon, hopefully, which is the political level. And even at political level, okay, I see we are still in contact, but the scheme seems to be freeze now. Hopefully, it will become active again as soon as possible. So I continue my explanation. At the next level, which is political and which is appearing now, all our politics and actions and visions, like the issues we are talking today, this afternoon, morning, late, took place also in the same planet. And all our brains try to think about those issues and how we could. Okay, we can keep this list like that. And you see what happens between the subject actions and the world of the objects is what Basarab called the hidden third, which is a X here in yellow. And in this X, all the points red from human place and blue from natural place, they will mix and they will exchange and they will create what Basarab called religions, societies, and cultures. So there is an ongoing between human activities and the natural world, and this is the core of the three axiom of transdisciplinarity. This is maybe a little bit complicated, but if you want to go further in it, we produce, as I said, also videos, symposiums, who am all free online. Let's go to last slide, please, and it will be my conclusion. So our proposal for today is to see how the TD approach is linked with human vulnerability and systemic fragility. In this context of the rising algorithmic power, we have a lot of things to offer. I will just point out 3 entries which came once again from Basarab Nicolescu work. He called that, it was, I think it was 8 years ago, he called them pan-terrorism, because it is the terrorism without border. It is also transhumanism, which is the dark side of the force. We have to think about it and to put it into the light. And last one is the Anthropocene area, which shows our fragility, like the global warming. And that's why I don't have a tie for today. I'm sorry for this. So there's different entries must be a possibility for all the speakers who will succeed now, how we could go in a new consciousness of human conditions on Earth. Because it's not the nature who needs man. Nature will survive very easily without humanity, but humans, can't live without nature. So we have to think about this issue. How could humanity survive from human? This is an opening, and I'm very happy now to finish my talk and to welcome, to thanks again all the presents here and to welcome the next presentators. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, Florent. That certainly gives us a good indication of what CIRET is trying to do. That's a very interesting model for understanding the world. Okay, now I'm now going to introduce our panelists one by one as they present. And if anyone would like to ask a question, please write it in the chat. I will begin with Dr. Mirella Tamur-Vardin, who is from Quebec in Canada. She's an associate professor at the Université de l'Ontario Française in Toronto. Her research is on transdisciplinary analysis of the impact of AI on human intelligence. She holds an interdisciplinary PhD in arts and humanities and has contributed significantly to the development of transdisciplinary thought, particularly with her work on concepts of the transdisciplinary subject or the boundary person. She's involved in research and educational initiatives promoting international dialogue across disciplines and cultures. Okay, over to you, Mirella, if you'd just like to.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Thomas.
Go ahead.
I will try to share my screen. I hope that... Do you see my screen? Yes? Everything is okay? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So, I would like to thank the organizers of the gathering for inviting me to participate in this discussion. Please forgive any imperfection in my English, as my primary working language is French, as you know. So, for several years now, one idea has continued to shape my exploration of the relationship between human beings and artificial intelligence. That exploration has led me to adopt an epistemological and transdisciplinary perspective, drawing on both Anglophone and Francophone traditions of scholarship. From this perspective, I seek to shed light on what I believe is one of the major blind spots in today's discourse: human agency. Today, we are considering solely the AI agency, and I would like to explore the human agency. The emerging question is no longer simply how humans use artificial intelligence, but how the progressive delegation of knowing, judgment, and decision to algorithmic systems quietly transforms the very possibility of autonomous human action. Today, I'd like to focus on an issue that concerns every discipline, every field of inquiry, and every initiative unfolding in an era of accelerating algorithmic expansion and the increasing algorithmic mediation of our society. And that issue is the unknowing. Closely related and often conflated with unlearning, unknowing deserves to be understood as a distinct process. It becomes particularly significant in a world that increasingly values, measures, optimizes, and legitimizes only what is already known, finite, and computationally tractable. Agency refers to the human capacity, Agency refers to the human capacity to act intentionally, exercise judgment, make decisions, and shape one's own life rather than being determined by external forces. Drawing on Bandura's theories of agency, my analytical perspective argues that preserving human agency in the age of AI requires maintaining autonomy, critical reflection, and moral responsibility instead of uncritically delegating judgment to algorithms. As AI systems increasingly predict, recommend, and optimize human choices, a growing risk emerges: the gradual erosion of human judgment and decision-making capacity, cognitive offloading. The works of McLuhan, Turkle, and Vallers, to name only this author, show how technological mediation can contribute to cognitive stagnation through attention capture, automatic judgment, and dependence on machines. It argues that one of the major challenges of the AI era is to reclaim human creativity, autonomy, and identity. In fact, a closer examination of human agency reveals that AI brings us back to a lack of human identity that characterizes us more than ever before. Regarding identity, we cannot necessarily define the profound human identity. We can only live it. And we are living our human identity very poorly right now. Thus, it would be wise to abandon the comfort of ideations, transplanting and shifting concepts from one place to another in a vast ocean of data. It would be wise to break free from this veritable hypnotic state induced by AI and continue to create in a human way, maybe not an old way, a nostalgic one, a renewed way, but human one, alongside the machines that are already building their own world, as we know. It is urgent to move beyond the current paradox where AI becomes increasingly autonomous, while human beings become increasingly dependent and susceptible to being conditioned by it. How can we understand this lack of human identity? In fact, human beings are shaped by a series of familial, social, cultural conditioning that ultimately obscures their true, profound, essential identity. Much of psychological suffering stems from the fact that individuals confuse this acquired programming with their true nature. And we must recognize that no previous era in the human history has allowed it for a better understanding of the programmable aspect of human beings than our contemporary era through technology. What could be the mechanism underlying this program? Belief. Belief is a mental process through which humans accept an idea proposed by an external intelligence, AI here, without being able to verify that idea for themselves. In the current context, the personal experience associated with acquiring knowledge is thus replaced by a blind intellectual and emotional attachment that leads to a manipulated, pre-established algorithmic informational dependency, rather than leading to an effective knowledge. Or the belief fosters vulnerability by encouraging us to seek answer from AI rather than relying on our own mind. What do we need to move beyond belief as the ultimate mechanism of thought? Undoubtedly, a strenuous process of unlearning and, moreover, a process of unknowing. In the current context, where our societies are becoming synthesized, knowledge is being algorithmic and constantly retrieved from a vast database, and thus a memory bank. It has become urgent to unlearn and especially to unknow. Why? Because everything AI informs or teaches us is already known. Human being will never compete with AI in terms of memory, processing speed, computational efficiency. That is not where our future will be decided. Our unique strength lies elsewhere, in our ability to question our assumptions, let go of ways of thinking that no longer serves us, and create new ones. In other words, our capacity to unlearn. Of course, AI systems can be updated, corrected, even made to unlearn in the technical sense of term. We know that we speak of machine unlearning today, but this is not unlearning in the human sense. Human unlearning is the capacity to transform the way we understand the world, to rethink our values, reshape our mental models. It is through this capacity that we continually renew ourselves. For this reason, AI will not renew us as human beings. It can amplify, extend, of course, some of our capabilities, but it cannot do the inner work required by unlearning on our behalf. Otherwise, we risk becoming trapped in the intelligence loop, a cycle in which increasingly powerful artificial intelligence interacts with a form of human intelligence that gradually relinquishes its most distinctive capacities. Breaking free from this loop requires us to cultivate what remains irreducibly human, our ability to unlearn, to transform ourselves, to reinvent the way we think, and ultimately to expand our consciousness, as Florence said. Before moving further, let us clarify what distinguishes unlearning to unknowing, often used interchangeably. Although those two concepts are inextricably linked, there is a subtle distinction between them as they operate at fundamentally different levels. Excuse me. Most of the literature of unlearning comes from management, organizational learning, and educational research. It describes an intentional process of letting go of habits, routine, beliefs, or mental models that have become inadequate in order to make room for new ways of thinking and acting. Several scholars even argue that knowledge is not literally erased. Rather, we stop relying on it or replace it with a different interpretative framework. The unknowing, by contrast, has received far less attention. It is rooted more in philosophy, phenomenology, certain branches of psychology, and transdisciplinary thought, excuse me. Unknowing does not mean unlearning. Instead, it involves temporarily relinquishing the claim to know. The goal is no longer to replace one body of knowledge with another, but to suspend the mental categories through which we interpret reality, allowing something genuinely unexpected to emerge. Here, emptiness is not a lack to be filled, but a cognitive and existential openness. In this sense, a knowing is not a deficit of knowledge. It is the capacity to remain in the presence of the unknown without rushing to resolve it. This distinction can be summarized very simply. Unlearning transforms the content of knowledge. It reshapes our mental models and invites us to let go of assumptions that no longer serves us. And unknowing transforms our relationship to knowledge. It suspends the very need for certainty before any new understanding takes shape. In other words, unlearning replaces the map, whereas unknowing accepts for a while that we may have to walk without a map. Unlearning is a process of cognitive transformation. Unknowing is an epistemic stance. This distinction reveals an often overlooked paradox, because a person may engage extensively in unlearning while remaining incapable of unknowing. They may continuously replace old beliefs with new ones without ever questioning their underlying need to possess a definitive explanation. Conversely, someone practicing unknowing can encounter new phenomena without feeling compelled to fit them immediately into an existing conceptual framework. One of the greatest challenges of the AI era is not learning more, but cultivating our capacity for unknowing. As we become increasingly dependent on AI-generated knowledge, our ability to suspend certainty, question our assumptions, and remain open to what cannot yet be known becomes more essential than ever. To summarize, it is not a matter of adapting the known to unknown. It is a matter of letting go of the known so that the unknown can manifest itself. And this is a confirmed transdisciplinary attitude highlighted by Basarab Nicolescu, one of the founders of the transdisciplinary thought, as Florence said, who demonstrates the importance of being able to deal at any moment with the unknown, the unexpected, and the uncertainty. It is not a matter of saying that from now on we will believe differently. It is a matter of deconstructing belief. It is not a matter of hoping that from now on we will think differently. It is a matter of deserting actual way of thought, the mirror of reality to which we are entitled and which imprisons us, as Nicolescu, quantum physician and philosopher, has so clearly demonstrated. It is not a matter of making something new out of the old. It is above all a matter of confronting the deepest structures of our psyche, exploring them and freeing them from every form of domination and conditioning. Why is unknowing so difficult in the AI era? I would like to examine here three mechanisms that emerge at the intersection of epistemology, cognitive science, and artificial intelligence and systems theory. They are rarely articulated together in this way. First, AI externalizes uncertainty before we can experience it. Human understanding has traditionally emerged through moments of hesitation, confusion, and intellectual struggle. Today, generative AI increasingly fills these gaps before we even recognize them. As a result, we risk losing our tolerance for productive uncertainty, the very cognitive space in which unknowing begins. Second, AI turns knowledge into an always available commodity, while unknowing requires knowledge to remain unfinished. When every question appears to have an immediate answer, we gradually forget that genuine inquiring depends on questions that resist closure. Unknowing is difficult because it asks us to preserve what algorithms are designed to eliminate, the open-endedness. Third, AI amplifies epistemic fluency while diminishing epistemic humility. The smoother, faster, and more convincing knowledge becomes, the easier it is to mistake coherence for understanding. Yet, unknowing begins precisely when we recognize the limits of our own frameworks. At the conclusion of my analysis, the question that arises is perhaps less about what artificial intelligence can do today than about whether we are still willing to unknow. And this line of inquiry invites us to reconsider our relationship with the mind itself, but also with the algorithmic system that increasingly mediate our access to the world and shape the way we relate to it. When human beings deepen their relationship with the mind through experience, judgment, and critical awareness, they develop a genuine expansion of their capacity. And this is a process of transformative evolution of consciousness that leads to autonomy and invulnerability. Conversely, when this enhancement relies primarily on an increasing delegation of our cognitive functions to algorithmic systems, we risk confusing assistance with development and performance with autonomy. What then appears to be an enhancement of the human being actually masks a diminution of their effective agency. At this point, before unknowing becomes a collective responsibility, it is an individual responsibility. Thus, it would be wise for each of us to ask ourselves a few questions that distill the entire journey we have just explored. What in me resists the act of unknowing? What do I lose or believe I lose if I let certainty dissolve? Am I relating to the mind and to AI as sources of truth, or as systems that continuously reshape what I call truth? Do I experience AI as knowledge or as a mirror that amplifies my own need for certainty? Grounded in a sustainable, reform-oriented perspective, this inward inquiry enables us to truly stand before our students or our peers and speak from a place of lived experience and authentic human autonomy. I wish to make it clear that I fully acknowledge the transformative role of artificial intelligence in shaping our present and our future. I do not seek to deny or diminish its significance, but I just would like to invite us to examine a distinctly human capacity, the power of unlearning and unknowing, in order to remain open to new ways of understanding ourselves and the world. In the face of algorithmic power, If there is one idea I invite you to take away from my talk, is this. Human agency unfolds in the space of unknowing, where our entanglement with the mind generates continuously evolving, living forms of knowing, never complete, always self-renewing. In contrast, entanglement with AI produces increasingly closed, externally stabilized form of knowledge, efficient yet finite. The question is therefore not what is good or bad, but what is real and what remains capable of becoming. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Mirella. Your paper certainly inspires some hope. There's something quite unique about the way we operate as human beings that cannot be reduced to symbolic thought. And as we all know, AI is very heavily language-based. So it's a different approach, and it's difficult for an AI not to have an answer, to say I don't know, or to ask a question that has no answer. And that's really what science is about. It's about asking the questions for which we do not have an answer yet. Yes. Anyway, I'll continue now and ask the next speaker, who is Wesley Yorobi, who lives in the USA, is from Côte d'Ivoire. And he's a cybersecurity researcher, technology entrepreneur, international speaker, and founder and CEO of Scorton, an AI-driven cybersecurity company focused on trust by design and behavioral risk prevention. Previously, he was head of digital for the Ivorian government, leading initiatives at the intersection of technology and public service and civic management. A long-time advocate of open source innovation, he was a Mozilla representative for 10 years and led Google developer groups communities for another decade. He is a US State Department alumnus and tech camp trainer, and has spent a decade mentoring digital developers and entrepreneurs while advancing cyber resilience and responsible digital transformation on a global scale. So over to you, Wesley. I hope that's the right pronunciation.
Yeah, it's Wesley. You pronounce well. Thank you so much. So it's a pleasure and honor to be there with all of you. And thank you so much, dear professor and researcher. And I'm very happy to be there. And it's an honor, privilege, and I say hi and hello and welcoming everybody that follow this webinar. So I will share my screen, and then I will share my thought about. I will try to have this, because I'm lucky to have this way of speaking at the same time, like a scientist, but also like a civilians. So I will bring this touch of the civil society plus my experience as a cybersecurity researcher. So my topic is governing AI before its act. Because the main important things, and I will start with that, is I will, of course, we already introduced myself. So if you want to having more detail about me, you can just write it down about me, Wesley. This is my experience with Mozilla. And this is Foxy. We love Foxy. It's our like umbrella at Mozilla. Let's start with society. Let's define what is a society. Society is a family, school, work, government. Is an environment. Is people around of us. Is a sense of belonging. Like when it's about a country, sometimes also a region. People, some people say, "Oh, I'm European and American and I'm African or Asian." But we need, as a citizen now, to learn that we are not anymore only on a society. We belong to a digital society. And this digital society is the replication of the society. And on this digital society, there is interaction with human, interaction with algorithms, interaction now with agents, and interaction with a virtual space, a virtual environment. That creates sometimes for the soul and the human brain a distortions, because it's sometimes very hard to distort our reality in the work in the workspace, then the family space, and then in another space. Then we add a new layer called the digital space. So in this new era of the AI, we talked, Dr. Mirula has talked about the human agency. There is now a new being that technology scientists have created called agent, AI agent. They are being the same, they can act, they can do things, they can decide, they can interact, they can talk, they can reproduce the voice of the human. They understand our language, and they have memory, they have capability. The problem or today of that is, as a scientist or as a technologist, we are able, because our brain is trained like that, to always questioning, always try to see if there is a lie beyond any assertions. But 90% of the citizens of the population don't do that. And they start that actually a lot of people speak with ChatGPT. ChatGPT become their friend, or Claude become their friend, because it's difficult for the human brain to make the difference between I speak to the AI or I speak to a human. So let's go further. I will coin two concepts. It's not mine, but come from one expert and one researcher. Is AI safety from Eliezer Yudowski, researcher at MURI, one of the biggest research lab on AI safety. And what does AI safety mean? AI safety is like how we can protect the society. It's not just the digital society, how we protect the society against AI. Again, I don't say AI is bad. I say that AI is a tool. It could be a weapon. It could be good things. But we need to teach. We need to learn to give the opportunity to all the civilians to know what's beyond AI. AI now is a commodity, and because it's a commodity, we need governance. So the second concept is agentic cybersecurity. That means what? That means human can fix cybersecurity. Generally speaking, most of the cybersecurity experts don't have the capability to handle all the attack before the AI era. Now with the AI era, there is multiple attack, because a kid from 12 years old can create a virus. Anybody can create a virus right now. That means they will have in the near future an overflow of cyber threat and cyber attack. Human can do that. So all the cybersecurity expert, and also there's no many people that are cybersecurity expert, because 90% of the population don't worry about cybersecurity. They don't want to learn cybersecurity. A lot of technology developers don't want to do cybersecurity. So there is a lack of talent. So agentic cybersecurity is a fact that we can train model, how we can train agent to help all the experts to do agentic cybersecurity. So there is no shift without doctrine. All those transformations we see in the society is because sometimes there is technologists, sometimes there is scientists that coin concept, that write doctrine to indoctrinate the population, because it's easy peasy, sorry for this expression, to sell a vision when you write these visions in a book. So a lot of the problem we have as a scientist, we do a lot of research, but sometimes all those research are not right in a good storytelling way to do a propaganda for the civilians in a good way, not in a bad way, but to teach to people this is the reality. And all those people, sometimes scientists, but know how to do storytelling, or technologies, coin concept. For example, Palantir, the founder of Palantir, Alexander Karp, writes a doctrine called the Technological Republic. His postulate is saying that meritocracy is most important, and every state needs to be programmable. We need to transform all states as the machine, and all those states must have AI to have defensibility. And that's why the government of the US uses technology, because AI is not just a tool, it's a weapon to protect the United States, but also a tool that they sell for all the other states, right? For 10 years, Palantir been used by the DGAC, like the defense structure of France. Now, recently, they just decided they move forward to a French tool. But it's too late because Palantir have all the content of the security of France. Coinbase, the network state, the postulate of the Balaji Srivasan is any state must to be on the blockchain, and every citizen must create their own token. They can create their own money. And they work on that. Actually, create a school called Network School in Singapore. It invites scientists and technology to teach this thing to young people. And we need to change that. So there is a scientist I love because she's literally the mother of AI called Dr. Fifi Lee from Stanford a human AI lab, one of the few transdisciplinary lab that makes human view and the society view and the technology view. She said that she wrote a book called The World I See. Because AI now understands our language, the next move is AI will see what we see as a human. Maybe feel what we feel as a human. Because the only thing we say is that we say that that I don't have like sentience, but it's coming. Because if AI can see, AI can smell, they call that physical AI. She created a startup called World Lab. When she coined the concept of the world I see on the book, she created a startup because it's much easier to like sell things with a doctrine. So that's why transdisciplinarity is very important, because transdisciplinarity is all about mix a lot of people on different viewpoints to work together. It's not just like we have scientists and technology on the table. No, we work together as a team. The technology maybe can focus their energy on create the storytelling, create the doctrine, and the scientists on the meaning of this doctrine, on the dogma, on the value, on the deepest things, on the questioning, on the ethics, right? And maybe the civilians on how to apply that as like as a citizen, what is my rule, what is my need, etc., etc. So shift from software to autonomous agent. We use it for many years tools, algorithm. So AI is not something new. When we start to do Google Translate, we start to speak with AI. We spoke with AI, but what AI don't interact with us because AI just learned how we spoke. All the Google search we done was AI. Then this AI mature. And now this AI, the next move of this AI is coming in our brain. Like the human, this is the concept of transdisciplinarity. Trans mean in Latin, go beyond. Transdisciplinarity, transgender, transhuman, like how to go beyond, how to be a kind of God, right? Not God itself a religion, but God in the sense that anything is possible. If I die, I can just plug my brain and my memory into the cloud, and then I go back to another body. Maybe it seems like sci-fi, but actually a lot of startups use AI. A model like AlphaFlow being created by Google DeepMind, actually not only a AI campaign, but also a science company, because they won the Nobel Prize. And they do biohacking, because when you have AI, you can hack the human body. So this is something real. We need to teach to our civilians. We need to democratize. And thanks for this event. We need to do many events like this to teach to all the human species to protect themselves against all the deviance of AI. Again, AI is not bad, but the brain, the human brain, is deviant. Sometimes we want to do a lot of bad things with tools. And we know the story of the world, the World One, the World Two show us. And all the story of the human was always war with technology. So, okay, how to the human can oversight and no longer scale, because we again, like Dr. Mirala said, we overload now. Me, I'm able to know more than 100 tools, but I know many people that are not able to do that. They only know 3 tools. When I start to say, do you know that there is this tool, there is this tool, there is this tool, they stop to overload. They can't follow up. So that's why agent could be good, but we need to teach the human how to trust the agent, how to build an agent, how to code an agent, how to understand an agent. Like coding is a new language. Like we learned in the past how to say A, B, C, D. Now you need to know how to do 0 to 1 because this is hexadecimal. We need to teach that to our kid, our future, the near future generation. So country like Ukraine start that. In Ukraine, young people, kids, learn how to code. So in the past, as I mentioned, cybersecurity was all about like we react when there is an issue. On the agentic cybersecurity era, we use the AI to like respond rapidly, to detect, to predict, and to have more agency, faster, stronger to protect and defend data, but also human. Data is good, but I prefer protect human before data. Because, for example, when our young people use TikTok, we say it's just TikTok. No, it's not just TikTok. It's TikTok and algorithm, and then an AI that learn everything about their face because they use what all the face effects to be more beautiful on the screen. But this algorithm learn everything about their face, and they say no, we don't do that. They do that because they need to learn everything about the human and to sell their technologies. So we have a lot of pressure right now. Actually, autonomy of growth, pre-execution, post-incident, a lot of things happen right now because it's the far west. Again, sorry for this expression, but AI actually is the far west, is a bubble. Everybody do everything. There is no rule. There's a lot of government that say they know AI, but they don't know AI. They don't protect the civilians. Sometimes they invest in big campaign. Sometimes they choose one champion. I will not mention the startup in France, but there's one startup that all the government say, okay, we support you because you are our champion. No, we can't have a world there is one champion. We need many champions to have good competitions, or also give opportunity to all the civilians to choose any model they want. Because if we create monopoly, it's bad. It's bad for civilians. So this is why I want to introduce this concept of operational trust. What does it mean? No matter we are technologists, scientists, a civilian. Operational trust is anytime I have an interaction with a model, an AI model, an AI agent, or a technology per se, it could be just like my email. I need to know, okay, what is the technology behind? I need to know how to deploy. I need to know how to protect myself if there is an incident. I need to know how to do the review of the tool. Because if Google say we are secure and we say, okay, I trust Google. No, we can't trust any platform. We need to be able to do that, to do the review. And if we don't have the techniques, we have the answer with my company, Scotin. And the principle of that is trust review, trust score, trust policy, continuous governance. We build a tools that help anybody. It's totally free. It's on open sources, and you don't need to know how to code. You don't need to. You just need how to write in English or French or Spanish, whatever language, and you can literally do that. Do the review on any tool you do, any agent you use, the governance, the policy, or the AI I use. If I use Copilot access to what kind of data, and all this complexity. The good news, we are building right now a graph because as a scientist, you know that graph is the best way on mathematics or math to represent the complexity of the world. Good news, we have that now, Scotland. And we have a network, and I learned that from Mozilla. We have a network right now of 30 volunteer contributor that every day with a few fund, a few money, a few effort that contribute because our goal is help all human beings, all researchers, all companies, small, big one, to be able to do the review of all tools, technical tools, AI agent, AI model and know what is review mean, what is score mean, like a score of, like if Gemini have a score of 50, that means they are average. If they have a score less than 50, that means it's not good AI. And I don't trust this AI. But right now we don't have this. And that's why it's mess. It's difficult for scientists now to know, okay, if I do my research and I plug my research on ChatGPT or Gemini, maybe they can take all this IP. It's very hard to trust now everything. So I'm close to my final thought is how we can do this review. One, learn how to process AI, how to do the review, how to do the scoring. And if you don't know how to do that by ourselves, there is tools. Not only Scoton, Mozilla also actually built an entire platform for that called Mozilla AI. You can also check on Mozilla AI. There's a lot of open sources projects that do that too. And we need to learn and we need to cheat that for free to anybody on the entire planet Earth. And we need to know how to measure all this AI. Don't only listen the evaluation to say, oh, well, we say that Claude is very good on prediction or mathematics, on statistics. No, if they say that, we must be able also to test by ourselves, our computer, if this technology is real and what is the data leak behind. We need to do some investigations. And this is the beginning of science, questioning. Science is always questioning, not trusting, questioning. If somebody says something, no, I want to know what is the truth. Critical thinking, right? So the vision of the AI safety is how to measure today, tomorrow, any technology, any AI, agent, model, and use this AI to make science scalable, to make science like more public, to frame. This is a good thing with AI. For example, if a scientist don't know how to do storytelling, that is okay because if you prompt well in AI agent, you train this AI agent properly, it can create a novel. And this novel can be a tool to promote a doctrine. And we saw earlier that all this technology and some scientists use this storytelling stuff. Storytelling is so powerful. Storytelling create movement. Storytelling create change. Storytelling access to our like imaginations. And as a human species in any society, from old society, modern society, we love thinking, we love dreaming. And religion is about what? It's about like thinking about something higher, bigger. This is imagination. We don't know if it's true or false, but if we think about that and we go beyond and we transcend, we are like that. We've been made. That's why we are human, though. In Greek, human is like I'm beyond, and I have a domain. My domain is the heart. In my village, right? Takeaway: we must, as a society, if I have something, sorry for my emotion and the passion I put in these things, but it's something I work on it for more than 50 years. 15 years, try to do the propaganda of this, and thank for the CIRET to also contribute on my effort. Thank to Florent Pasquet and also Christina Mirel, also I know she's a part of CIRET. Thank you to a lot of people like me, because most of the time, people like us, people don't want to listen because we sometimes weird, right? But we need to be able to have people from all over the world, from any like background, to speak out. Autonomy of governance, post-incident, faster, easier, uh, and operational trust. And the final things that I learned from Mozilla is unlearning isolation to tech that connect. And tech not in the sense that technology, no, tech in sense that of way of doing things. Technology is not just like writing down on computer. Technology is about, or tech is about technique. There is social technique, there is cognitive technique, there is psychology technique, there is historical technique, there is many techniques. So how we bring people on the table, policy in Mozilla, what we love to do when we create a room for transdisciplinarity and creating something together as society, digital society. always scientists, always policymaker, always civil society, always developer, always designer, always linguists, and we are all together and we do boot camp, bar camp, and the concept of boot camp, bar camp is just speaking out what we think, what we trust, different opinion, and there is a facilitator. That's why I love CIRET because for me, I don't know if I share this with all my colleagues, but being a part of CIRET is learning how to be facilitators, to facilitate, to help people to, because it's very hard to know this concept of disciplinarity, but facilitate, put people on the table, everybody says their opinion, but no matter what you say, somebody say is beyond and superior to another, but we try to create like what we say in French, like le chair inclus. I don't know how to say in English, but chair inclus, right? Say so. This is common ground where everything synchronized to one goal: how to make trust, operational trust, a commodity, how to make knowledge a commodity, how to make of internet freedom a commodity, how to make our citizen aware that they are not anymore just citizens, they are a part of a digital society or a digital government or a digital university, and on and on and on. So I will stop there because I know myself. I can speak for many years or many hours, but we pause there and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Basie. That was amazing. Thank you. Really great talk, and I'm very much appreciate you speaking freely rather than to a script. That's great. It's easier to understand, and I think your concept of operational trust is very interesting. And if I may just ask you something before we move on, because I really want to make sure that I understand and that our listeners also understand. And so you're saying that it is something that is built into the very structure of the AI itself, yeah? And it's something that is transparently communicated to your clients, yeah, to the users of that AI. So you say exactly how you constrain it, so to speak, or manage it and set guidelines that are built in, not after the fact, after things go wrong, but preemptively, trying to set limits. And how does that compare to the reality of, say, Palantir? You mentioned the decision in France and elsewhere now to actually bar access, maybe a little late, to Palantir. But what's the level of trust there now? What do we know about the constraints that Palantir builds into its products, or others for that matter? Are there any constraints? Or is the kind of thing that you're talking about completely lacking?
Oh, thank you so much for this question. I think again, thank to give me opportunity to like overlay. So I will start with the first question, about like the understanding for us as Scotland as a community. I don't just speak about myself, I speak about it. I'm just like, sometimes I don't say I'm a CEO, I say I'm just Scotland lead because we a community, we want to move forward. So I always speak for the community as a Scotland lead, no CEO. So we think and we trust that there is no freedom without boundaries. So we need boundaries because as a human species, when we don't have boundaries, sorry to say this word, but we mix up because human need boundaries to know what is the limit, because if there's no limit that a human can go very far, very far. So the concept of the boundaries, not say like you don't have freedom, but you have a freedom, but it's a boundaries. Like there is a set of rules, there is a set of boundaries, and then you respect your place and you respect the split of order. Now, if you use this analogy with the concept of the AI that we explained, like our idea of the trust, operational trust, is not like we own operational trust, is only us that do that. No, we want like this thing will be two things. First, a framework that anybody can use, is free, open source, open science, open data. That's the first thing. The second thing is this framework also will be a set of tools to any institution, any organization to know how to manage, govern all those tools, all those AI, because 99% of organization, 99% of state, I work for the Ivory government and also work a little bit with the French and the US one. Government people, most of 99% of the government don't know how to govern these things. Now, if we go to the second question, so it's tricky because Palantir say that they do their best to secure the like all the interaction, all the data, all the things. Sometimes they say that the model are on premise. And premise then that means what? The model is not connected to the cloud, but the model is or the tool is on the data sources or data database or data like cloud of the organization. But it's just a word. They just say, for me, it's not something that will convince me there is no misuse, right? For me, for us, the only way to be sure that an organization like Palantir, Scale AI, Mistral, whatever the name, do the things properly is three things. Number one, a government, if you just focus on a government must say, okay, I have my small AI model or small LLM, we call that SLM, mine, are trained by with my own data, UI technology platforms. So I will create a bridge where you can connect your platform with my own models, and then I will create clustering. I will cluster. That is not you, the company, that will create a clustering. So I will create my rule. I will create a clustering. You plug yourself to my cluster, and then every output is verified by my own systems. And then sometimes, if I don't want to give you my entire data, I will generate what we call in our domain generic data. And then you will train your model on my generic data. And only for operation, lifetime operation, for example, what is happening in Ukraine, of course, you need real data. But if it's not real-time operation, you don't have access to my data. So I don't know if I was clear, but I try my best to explain something very deep in short time.
So it seems to me there is a lack of transparency about exactly what the constraints are, and a lot of the clients seem to be a little reckless in taking on these AI models without having that information. Like you wouldn't, if you wouldn't hire an employee if you didn't have some idea about their, character and some sense that they were trustworthy, but you let this super intelligent machine comb through your data without any guarantees. It's really reckless to do that. So I guess you're encouraging everyone to ask a lot of questions about what is built into the AI and not be daunted by the claim that it's sort of proprietary knowledge, but to insist that certain things that pose a risk for the client should know, has a right to know. And okay, so I'm now asking Christina Elena Popatache from Romania to speak. Christina worked with me closely to organize this symposium, so I thank you, Chris, for that. And Chris is Dean of the Faculty of Law and International Governance at Danubius International University and Director of CIRET's Observatory on Law and Transdisciplinarity. And she's a scientific expert within the European Parliamentary Research Service for the next 4 years. She is also a member of the Ethical Task Force on Underrepresentation and a visiting researcher at the Lauterbach Center for International Law at Cambridge Uni. She's a specialist in public international law, investment law, digital governance, transdisciplinary legal studies, and has authored numerous publications on transdisciplinary legal methodology, legal innovation, and the governance of emerging technologies. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Gary Jacobs, President and CEO of the World Academy of Arts and Science, and to Professor Thomas Reuter, Trustee of the World Academy of Arts and Science, who leads the Academy's initiative on existential risk, human security, and sustainable futures. Today, I will talk about artificial intelligence between the power of definitions, existential risk, and international governance. What I would like to say is that the evolution of synthetic societies compels us to view as artificial intelligence from three additional levels that are inextricably linked. The first is the power of definitions, because whoever defined the concept largely determined the rules by which this new technological reality operate. The second concern existential risk, which go beyond the technical dimension and call into questions the resilience of people, institutions, and why not societies, especially societies. The third is international governance, which must develop mechanisms to ensure that algorithmic power remains subject of law rather than coming to replace it. Recently, in my capacity as a specialist consultant, these are the three main areas of the questions I receive. And now let me share my presentation. I will keep like this just to have on my left side the number of slides and where I am. And I will start telling you something that I hope will be interesting to find out. In this slide number 3, for example, I intend to show you how international law governing new technologies. The first battle, it's important to say that it's about definitions, not about sanctions, if we are thinking for it. In 2023, the OECD revised the definition of AI system, emphasizing that it refers to a machine-based system that, for explicit or implicit purpose, derives from inputs how to generate predictions, content recommendations, or decisions that influence physical or virtual environments with varying degrees of autonomy and adaptability following implementations. At the same time, the European Union has incorporated this issue into positive law through regulation from 2024, 1689, an Harmonization Act of AI, and the US National Institute of Standards and Technology has explicitly stated that AI risk governance requires a common language, taxonomies, terms, definitions, and metrics. For this reason, for example, the lack of uniformity, it's a real issue, because we can talk about them in generally, but these definitions has evolved over the past 3 years for a mere vocabulary issue to a matter of determining who falls within the scope of obligations, who remains outside them, and what kind of harms become legally visible. What I would like to say is that the 21st century will by no means be nominated by states that possess the most advanced AI models, but rather by the states and organizations that succeed in imposing the standards and definitions used by the entire international community. In the realm of new tech, power began with definitions. And let's see the whole process. It's interesting that this issue is exemplified by algorithmic fairness. And I discovered that the US Standards Institute notes that the fairness standards are difficult to define, as perceptions of fairness differ across cultures and vary depending on the application. Moreover, a system that has addressed certain form of harmful bias is not, by the fact alone, a fair system. The multitude of definitions for fairness metrics demonstrate that fairness cannot be reduced to a single concise mathematical definition. The scientific literature confirmed the picture. There is a plethora of definitions of fairness, a veritable zoo of metrics, and they reflect different, sometimes incompatible, normative and technical perspectives. This raises a second problem. The same technical terms is understood differently. Therefore, in AI, conceptual confusion leads to academic ambiguity and to power asymmetries, arbitrariness in compliance, and inequality in the protection of rights, which is very, very awful. I will show you now some lessons from medicine. We can draw an extremely useful analogy. The World Health Organization treats ICD-11 as the global standard for recording and reporting diseases, and this standardization enables clinical, epidemiological, statistical, and administrative comparability among countries, hospitals, and healthcare systems. You will say, so what? Let's see further. The underlying idea is simple. A hospital cannot decide on its own that disease X has a different meaning that it does in the rest of the world without compromising diagnosis, professional liability, research, and even institutional interoperability. So let's see the next slide. Where I put here, just to be sure, a succession of dogs. In AI, we still find ourselves all too often in precisely this phase of conceptual pre-standardization. The regulatory infrastructure is beginning to take shape. The United States Institute for Standards explicitly calls for a common language and taxonomy for risks. I also have the international committee responsible for standardization in the field of AI. So ISO EIC 42001 from 2023 is presented by ISO as the first international standard for artificial intelligence management systems, providing a governance framework for responsible use, traceability, transparency, and risk management. At the United Nations level, General Assembly Resolution 78 from /265 address internationally interoperable practices and standards for identifying, testing, and mitigating risk, including combating algorithmic discrimination and bias throughout the life cycle of AI systems. The final report of United Nations Secretary General's high-level advisory body even recommends a global AI data framework to establish common definitions, principles, and standards for the provenance and use of training data. This means that, like medicine, AI will function credibly only through ad hoc innovation that requires semantic, operational, and evidentiary standardization at a much higher level.
Christina, please turn your volume on your speakers down a bit. We're getting a bit of echo. I think it's probably coming from your own speakers. Okay.
I have an echo.
Yeah, if you could just turn your speakers down on your own computer, the volume.
Now it's better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, thank you. Now you can see how existential risk should not be reduced to scenarios of human extinction. From the perspective of international law, because I am here to talk about the perspective of international law, we can discover a lot of land where they also include threats to peace, security, public health, the environment, democratic governance, and the integrity of knowledge. The Bletchley Declaration from 2023 recognized that advanced artificial intelligence systems may cause serious or catastrophic harm and emphasize the need for international cooperation. Recent international reports identify risks such as algorithmic bias, of course, surveillance, fabricated content, labor disruptions, threats to peace and security, and weak governance. They call for common international standards of transparency, testing, monitoring, and accountability. The World Health Organization, the International Labour Organization, and the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization all underline that artificial intelligence has implications extending far beyond technology. From an international law perspective, its greatest existential risk it is potential to destabilize across borders and at the same time the system that sustain health, labor, security, environmental protection, and real-world knowledge. This is, of course, is just a perspective, but let's go further to see something, some solutions, let's say like this. To meaningfully assess state responsibility, it is not enough to observe that artificial intelligence produce harmful effects. International law must also establish where a relevant act occurs, when it takes place, who exercise control, and how evidence can be reconstructed. This requires a cyber-spatio-temporal perspective linking digital activities to both location and chronology. The spatial dimension, we know the spatial dimension because it concerns interconnected digital infrastructure and the actors operating them, while the temporal dimension concerns the sequence of events, persistence, synchronizations, and traceability. Without reliable timing, attribution and causation become extremely difficult. These elements have direct legal consequences. The due diligence principle requires states not to allow digital infrastructure under their control to be used in ways that harm the rights of other states. Yet, standards for cyber attribution remain insufficiently developed. A coherent legal regulation therefore depends on establishing minimum international standards for localization, chronology, I will not say control, I will say balance control, and the preservation of digital evidence. Such an approach is not yet codified. It's my proposal. In fact, I discovered this proposal about the domain of cyberspace and time in some UNESCO document from, I don't know, 20 years ago. Such an approach can provide a necessary foundation now, today, for future rules on international responsibility. I will go to the final because look at some examples. The concept of the common heritage of mankind has its origin in the vision promoted by Malta through Arvid Bardon. Also, Malta has extended this proposal to certain global assets. There is currently no official proposal to declare artificial intelligence or all AI data as a common heritage for mankind. Current developments are moving in a different direction. United Nations documents promote concepts such data commons, data trust, digital public goods, and the global framework for AI data governance. In this case, the question is whether AI commons can be developed. Open standards, we're thinking for open standards, also for well-governed datasets, shared infrastructure, and models designate for the public interest. If I were to summarize the essence of this topic, I will say that the fundamental challenge of artificial intelligence lies in the relationship between its growing power and the authority to define its purpose, risk, and limits. That is why standardizing definitions and standards is essential, just as medicine. I will come back to medicine. Just as medicine uses common classification for diseases, AI needs a common language regarding concepts such as risk, fairness, or safety. In my view, state accountability in the era of AI can only be established by referring to a domain of cyberspace and time, which allow us to see an attribution of digital act and the enforcement of due diligence obligations. Now I am at the final of my presentation. So my conclusion is as follows. Yes, it is possible to have commons in AI, but not as a myth of technology that is completely ownerless. It is clear that we have a lot of work to do and that we must now establish the legal and institutional lines for the commons relevant to AI. It's a lot of work here. I do believe that we can and must build an international regime of selective, well-governed commons that reduce the concentration of power, increase the capacity of less developed states, and makes AI as a competitive tech, a legally regulated one, in the service of humanity. In conclusion, I emphasize the most important role that the founders of transdisciplinarity assigned to international law and refer to Article 8 of the Charter of Transdisciplinarity from 1994, which says the dignity of the human being is of both planetary and cosmic dimensions. The appearance of human being on Earth is one of the stages in the history of the universe. The recognition of the Earth is our home is one of the imperatives of transdisciplinarity. Every human being is entitled to a nationality, we know, but as an inhabitant of the Earth is also a transnational being. The acknowledgement by international law of this dual belonging to a nation and to the Earth is one of the goals of transdisciplinary research. I finished my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Hopefully this was inspiring, and I will remain at my opinion that I have a lot of work to do here in international law. Thank you.
Thank you, because I think that's absolutely right. The legal profession will be at the forefront of regulating AI. There's no question about it. And it's definitely struggling, because, how many legal professionals have the detailed understanding of what AI does and how it's done and what its possibilities and its risks are outside the tech sector itself. So without transdisciplinarity, without people who can bridge that boundary, that gap, it's impossible. Like you said, it starts with definitions. You can't think of, sanctions or penalties for offenses that you don't understand. You have to first define what can be expected of an AI company, an AI provider. What are the expectations? What does it mean to trust them? And what is a breach of that trust? Or what are the rights of consumers?
Exactly.
we are not nowhere near defining all those issues, and there are many, you know, it's detailed. One thing I found particularly interesting is what you said about cyber time. You know about cyberspace, but cyber time is very, very interesting because the speed with which things happen, the decisions, the processes in AI, it's incredible and very hard to reconstruct. Do we even have, I mean, do AIs wear a body camera? Do they keep a record of their own processes? It'd be difficult because they're so complex. You know, how long are those records kept? Can we reconstruct where things went wrong? It's very difficult, I suppose. I don't know.
We
I
really
don't have
need
the
the regime.
technical knowledge, but are there cases? Are you aware of cases where that kind of reconstruction was done? Was it possible?
Sorry, the last part I didn't hear very well.
Do you know of any cases where something went wrong and the decisions by an AI had to be reconstructed to see where it went
Yeah,
wrong? Is that actually
yes.
possible?
Yes, of course. Even at the level of global tribunals, let's say like this, we have just a few cases, specific cases, or well-known cases, let's say like this, about some biases or artificial intelligence problem causing by their action. There is a passing problem because the law, it's a matter of society. And it's such a pity today that despite of a lot of warnings launched by engineers with more than 20 years ago, the law only today it stands to take a position. We don't have a decision in a big case. We don't have it now. Maybe we'll have in the near future. But the important thing is that we start the research. We start thinking for solutions. One of them come back us to some past literature about an anticipative law, but this is another discussion because any anticipatory law have to be very, very carefully applied or regulate. Why? Because there can be a danger of abuse. But let's hope for a better future. Let's hope for future generations good rights and for a good defense and good protection by intervention.
In that context, just one short question. Who would you say in the legal profession or which institutions are at the forefront of developing the appropriate legal definitions and rules for AI? Who's at the forefront?
In the forefront, I can nominate one.
Or a few, maybe, yeah.
There are a few. We have to unify. This is the idea. We have to unify our efforts to do something. Of course, we have United Nations programs. We have, as national level, some initiatives. As European Union, also we have some initiatives. But this is not enough. We need unified regulations. So this is
okay. Yeah, I would have liked to have Jerome Klen here. Unfortunately, he's been unable to join because he's the head of the UN advisory panel to the General Assembly on AI regulation. But perhaps for our non-live audience, we can splice something onto this live event. Anyway, I would like now to move on and ask Kiriti Prasad Chowdhury to speak. He's from Bangladesh. He's a member of the extra team. And Kiriti is an IT and digital governance professional with over 2 decades of multidisciplinary experience across industries including advances in regulation of AI in the life sciences sector and healthcare. So he's had a focus on AI risk, data integrity, cybersecurity, and the design of secure digital systems, the use of data analytics for disaster resilience and early warning. And he's a contributor to the Odyssean Institute Horizon Scanning process on emerging AI risks. So over to you, Kiriti. I see you've already got your shared your screen. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. Good day, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to be part of this symposium. It is a pleasure to join such a distinguished panel. Let me begin with a simple observation. Every major technological transformation eventually changes society, not just technology. And I believe AI is taking us into another such transformation. We are gradually moving beyond AI as a tool that simply helps us perform tasks or support decisions. Increasingly, AI is becoming a part of the environments which within people, institutions, and societies continuously operate. That is how we think about synthetic societies. They are characterized by persistent human AI interaction, algorithm mediated environment, and the continuous adaptation of both people and institutions. If this transformation is already underway, the next question is what new governance challenges emerge? Rather than viewing this as isolated AI risks, I see them interconnected governance challenges. Some concerns people. For example, preserving human agency and critical judgment. Other concerns institutions, such as accountability, transparency, and trust. Beyond that, we begin to see challenges of systematic fragility where interconnected AI's ecosystem create new form of dependencies. Finally, AI also raises broader questions of security and geopolitical stability. Today, rather than discussing all of this, I would like to focus on two examples that illustrate these broader changes. Let me illustrate these governance challenges through two examples. The first example focuses on people, particularly children. The second focus, first glance, this may seem like completely different topics. One concerns childhood development, the other concerns healthcare systems. But I think they actually illustrate the same underlying transformation at two different levels. The first asks, how does persistent interaction with AI influence human capability and development? The second asks, what happens when institutions become increasingly dependent on interconnected AI ecosystem? Together, these two examples illustrate how human vulnerability and systematic fragility gradually become interconnected within systematic societies.
Okay. Kiriti, we can't hear you. Are you speaking or? Okay. Can you hear us? You're muted, Kiriti. You're muted. Okay, that's better now. If you speak, could you please speak so we can see whether it's working? Okay.
And anyway, I was actually disconnected. Have you heard my the earlier slides, Thomas?
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you.
Yeah. The just I'm starting the begin with the childhood interaction. When we think about AI today, we often think of it as a tool that answers questions or performs tasks. But for today's children, AI may become something quite different. It may become a tutor, a companion, an advisor, a source of information, and sometimes even a source of emotional support. Unlike previous technologies, this interaction can become persistent throughout the childhood. We still do not fully understand the long-term implications of growing up with AI in the home.
Okay, I think we've lost you again. Hold on.
It was.
Okay, now it's working. Yeah.
One possibility is that children may increasingly rely on AI not only for information but also for guidance, decision making, and social interaction. As AI becomes more conversational and emotionally responsive, some children may even begin forming parasocial relationships with AI systems, raising new questions about social development and human relationships as well.
Hmm.
What happens when AI becomes part of the childhood itself? This is the question, big question. Now, my next point is regarding the healthcare. Healthcare provides an interesting example because it illustrates how synthetic societies create systematic fragility at the institution level. Traditionally, clinical decision depends primarily on professional expertise, clinical judgment, and accumulated experiences. Today, healthcare is gradually becoming an interconnected ecosystem where clinicians, AI systems, digital platforms, electronic health records, and continuous evolving knowledge all interact with one another. This transformation creates tremendous opportunities. We can improve outcomes, reduce costs, and enhance patient care, all while preserving human dignity.
Okay, Kiriti, we can't hear you. Hold on. You must have a.
Increasingly,
Okay, now it's good. Please
can you
continue.
hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
What I'm saying that AI systems is becoming more capable. Professionals may increasingly relying on algorithmic recommendations. Over time, this may contribute to the gradual erosion of tacit knowledge, the practical judgment, and intuition that clinicians develop through years of experience. At the same time, medical research is also evolving and different AI systems also continue to evolve it independently. Their interaction introduces distributed uncertainty across the healthcare ecosystem. The challenge, therefore, is no longer simply validating an individual AI model. It is understanding how an interconnected ecosystem behaves as a whole while preserving both human expertise and institutional resilience. Although these examples come from different domains, I think they reveal a common pattern. The childhood examples begins with people, the healthcare examples begins with institutions, but both point towards the same underlying transformation. As AI becomes more deeply embedded in society, human capability and institutional resilience become increasingly interconnected. That means the challenges we face are no longer purely technical. They are also cognitive, social, organizational, and ultimately societal. Understanding these interactions may become just as important as improving AI itself. If this is the direction in which systematic societies are evolving, the next question becomes how we respond. First, we need to preserve human agency. AI should continue to support human judgment and critical thinking rather than gradually replacing them. Second, we need to stronger institutional accountability. As algorithmic systems become more influential, governance should remain transparent, explainable, and subject to meaningful human oversight. Third, we need to strengthen societal resilience. Our institutions should be able to adapt, adapt to technological change without becoming overly dependent on opaque or tightly interconnected systems. Ultimately, technology should continue to brings me my final thought. Synthetic societies represent one of the defining societal transformation of our time. Like, like every major transformation throughout history, this one will bring both opportunities and new challenges. Developing more capable AI systems is important, but even more important is ensuring that this transformation continues to strengthen people, institutions, and societies. Technology will continue to evolve. History teaches us that not every evolution endures, only those that truly advance humanity. Uh, this is my final slide actually. No single discipline, institution, or nation can address these challenges alone. Building human-centered synthetic societies is a shared responsibility. Let us ensure that this transformation advances humanity. I hope these ideas contribute to our broader discussion in our today's session, and I look forward to learning from the perspective of my fellow panelists regarding this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kiriti. We had some problems with the sound, but I think your slides speak for themselves largely, and you put some very interesting examples forward. There's a lot of concern now in society about how exposure to AI or the use of AI tools will affect learning, children's cognitive development, and of course also institutions. And your two examples really show that. But I wanted to ask you, how optimistic or pessimistic are you there? Because I think human beings tend to reallocate their cognitive resources when when they have new tools. So, for example, when we all became accustomed to using the internet, we employ our intelligence differently in new ways that assume the availability of all this knowledge at our fingertips, which only a few decades ago didn't exist. But we've adapted to it. And I wonder, do you think we will adapt and find new uses for our own intelligence in the new spaces that open up?
Actually, there is two different issues. One is the
Uh, You've chopped out again, Kiriti, I'm afraid. Yeah, you have a weak connection. Okay, that's unfortunate. But basically, you wanted to, you made a comment also in the chat
have
about
to acknowledge.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, we didn't hear anything you said until now. You chopped out. The connection chopped out.
Can you hear me right now?
Now we can. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my connection is why interrupting. I do not know. That the point what I am actually saying that summary is the governance challenge is actually right now shifting from uh, single individual AI system to interconnected AI ecosystem because the AI systems are interconnecting and operating as a model ecosystem. So it is a big challenge to validate the complete ecosystem. This will be a big challenge for the near future. That's my assumption. And another point is the responsibility. Responsibility is in one sense governance is a part. Another part is actually social responsibility. How we are allow our children to use AI systems, how we are controlling them, but we have to acknowledge the positive sides of AI also. This is more important.
Okay, thank you. Basically, you were saying earlier you're interested in the idea of AI commons. How do you understand AI commons?
Yeah, so the parallel is of the because I know Creative Commons. I don't know if you know Creative Commons. I
Sure.
understand AI Commons because when I think about AI, I never coined this concept. I think the like Christina literally the owner of this concept. And when I hear AI Common, and I'll make a link with the Creative Commons. So Creative Commons being created, I think, in the 19, and the idea was like on the open web, open science, like open, like all this world of like opening the knowledge, is the fact that if I want to use a data, I want to use an IP, like if the owner of the IP give me the possibility to use and not sell, or use and sell, I can. And this help and facilitate this world of like sharing and create. Go back about what we mentioned, the rule and the boundaries. So AI Commons, if I do the translation from the Creative Commons to the AI Commons, will be just simple, like creating just some rule where if a set of rule where if somebody, like for example, there is Queen, a Chinese model, an open source model. They use the license of MIT to make the open source. But what they don't say is like if we are able to use the model and then create a new one, and maybe do whatever you want. It's not so crystal clear. But if you wrote this AI command, it will be another layer upside to the Creative Commons that we create, because Creative Commons is over. Like is we need in any government we need like to vote new amendment, new law, and I think this is a big great idea that Christina coined, and we need maybe that to think after this consortium, after this conference, how to maybe write an article about that, how to write a book about that, and how to like create this framework and give that for free, and help people to like to use that. And I think we have all the capability, because the World Academy have a lot of scientists, the CIRET, us with the Mozilla. I know the some people in Mozilla will not mention them, but I can create this connection, for example, for myself to connect Mozilla and what you do and what we do as Cotton, and make that real, not just like speculate about that, but make it real, because this is a great idea. Thanks again, Christina, for that. I love this
Certainly
idea.
something we can look into. Yeah.
Yeah.
Florence, did you, or Christina put her hand up actually.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much. Just to reply to Basely, thank you very much. You take away exactly the key of my presentation. It's so important, and I would like to say it's so important to not only from the perspective of international law, it's so important to establish a concept of commons. But these commons, in the sense of international law, cannot be mechanically extended to artificial intelligence as a whole, but we need it. We feel that we need it. We need some international regulation, because till now we have national regulation, regional regulation, or some specific markets, international markets regulation. But we need something to unify everything, because AI is neither a single object nor a natural shared domain comparable, for example, to the high SIA, because the concept of commons come from the high SIA, outer space, because the moon, the stars, the sun are commons. Or the same concept comes for, it's just a comparison from the deep seabed. So we have some components we have to put together to an ensemble, and let's test how they can functioning, because we really have to work on it. Another and just an example of a deviation in the final, and I will stop here. I observed that many international legal and policy instruments increasingly, because you, dear Professor Thomas Reuter, talk about user and consumer earlier, right, a few minutes earlier. And many legal and policy instruments distinguish the notion of the user from that of the consumer. But a conceptual deviation has emerged whereby, for example, at the level of European Union and in Digital Services Act and in Digital Market Acts, and this deviation whereby references are made to the fundamental rights of users. Or track the category of users may include software agents, software robots. Yeah, what kind of fundamental rights they have? This is a mistake. I propose to change these regulations, because this is a deviation. Users can mean automated systems, whereas fundamental rights as a matter of international human rights law belong primarily to human beings, yeah, not to robots. This is just one example. Thank you for giving me the floor.
It's true that we also need to think about the rights of AI. And certainly, if we reach that point where we have artificial superintelligence, as some people call it, we'll have to consider that, because it's a fundamental rule of relationships that others will treat you the way you treat them. And so we must consider that and take a balanced approach. Yeah. In other words, we can't expect AI to behave well if we don't, if we don't reciprocate. It's always a kind of an understanding. So I think that will likely happen. And certainly, when we look at some of the developments with agentic AI, it seems not very far away, frankly. I don't think it's very far away.
Yeah.
And yeah, so how will we operate in a world that is populated by agents that have, perhaps superior intelligence to ourselves? And what really I find really fascinating is that it's actually AI that's revealing that we already have been for millennia living and millions of years living with other highly intelligent species. And I'm referring here to the research findings on animal language. And I say language because AI has recently discovered that certain whale sounds actually have a two-tier structure like human languages. In other words, sentences and words. So AI is actually revealing that we've already been surrounded by other intelligent beings, and which we have chosen to ignore. But anyway, I wanted to ask Florent to say a few closing words, because we now have been going for more than 2 hours, and I think it's time to close. Florent, I give you the opportunity to say some final words.
Yes, thank you very much, Thomas, for the conducting of this webinar with your presentation of every speakers, with interesting questions you addressed to each of them after their interventions. From my side, I don't have so much to add of what have been shared already and questioned. I think we addressed fundamental issues for the future of humanity on our planet, because we don't have a B planet, and no one is able to live on Mars or I don't know where else. So this is pure phantasmagory. And all what we have to do now is our best to cooperate wherever we are. And we are here a panel of incredible people from different countries, different continents, and we are all interested in a common issue. We talk a little bit about what are commons, and I'm very glad to hear that, because after Basarab work defining TD transdisciplinarity as like is between, among, and along disciplines, I wanted to propose common like another state of definition of transdisciplinarity. And if digitalization offers us the opportunity to think about this opening to go further and make transdisciplinarity more useful for everyone, I think it's a good way we can continue to explore from our different specialities, but without forgetting we are all working for a better future for all the species. And as you say, not only human species, but animal species, plant species, and of course, what Edgar Morin could have called Gaia. This means the sense of the planet itself. So that's my final words. Thank you, Thomas. I give you back the floor to finalize our meeting of today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I think we shall close here, but thank you for your participation. It's been an interesting discussion, though a lot more could be said. And I certainly hope that we can work in a transdisciplinary way to find some answers. But I would like to emphasize again that Baisley's contribution shows that we really need to work with the people who are at the center of the technological development, people who are critical voices in the industry are going to be absolutely vitally important to help us understand what is coming just over the horizon, which we are not yet aware of. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Later. See you in
Until next
September,
time.
hopefully.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, for
Ciao.
sure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Okay.